Did you know that Yuma, Arizona declared a state of emergency recently because they are overwhelmed by the migrants that are crossing the border? Did you know that a new caravan of 1,800 migrants is heading through Central America? And, I'm sorry. Hundreds of Central American migrants are heading towards the border in a new caravan as agents capture 1,800 illegal immigrants in just one day. Did you know that apparently we have video that may show, if you notice these qualifiers, armed militia detaining migrants at U.S.-Mexico border? The American Civil Liberties Union is calling the actions a kidnapping and a flagrant violation of the law. I'm not a legal scholar. I would defer to the ACLU, although I think they've kind of lost their minds. But these stories are all from within, these two are from yesterday, and this one from the Wall Street Journal. This story is from 2 days ago. Listen, we know there is a massive wave of migrants that keep coming to the U.S. through the border. We know that we are at record levels, at least for the past year. In a story I covered a few days ago, it looks like in the past 5 months, the U.S. has apprehended more migrants than it did for all of last year, which means we are on track this year to double the amount of migrants that are getting apprehended crossing the border. So what do people think is happening? When Trump says we've got a crisis and emergency on the border, and the apprehensions are skyrocketing, and we have, what is this, in one day? In one day, 1,800 people in one day. Okay, and we'll get to the militia thing because this is controversial. You know, my sort of thought on the matter is, if you've got Americans who are just detaining the migrants and then passing them off to law enforcement, I'm kind of confused as to how that's kidnapping. You know, there are certain, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but you can, like, citizens arrest people in the U.S. I think you're liable if you're incorrect, but you can detain people. You can hold, you know, if you see someone robbing something, you can grab them and hold them down and wait for the police to come. I don't see how this is any different. But I'm not, again, I didn't watch the video, so, you know, maybe it's really bad. I have no idea. But let's take a look. If Yuma, Arizona needed to declare a state of emergency, don't you, is that enough? And look at, wait. The Wall Street Journal straight up calls it a migrant crisis. So clearly something's happening. They say, the city on the U.S.-Mexico border has become the first in the nation to declare a state of emergency over illegal immigration, echoing officials who say new policies and resources are needed because the surge of families seeking asylum has become unmanageable. Mayor Douglas Nichols, a Republican, made the declaration late Tuesday. He said U.S. Border Patrol agents released nearly 1,300 migrants in Yuma, which is a population of about 100,000 in just the past 3 weeks. The only shelter in Yuma, a former Salvation Army thrift store with a space for up to 200 people, has eclipsed its capacity, the mayor said, leaving the city with no ability to absorb migrant families who are entering the U.S. in growing numbers. The declaration doesn't change any policies in Yuma. Mr. Nichols said in an interview that it is his way of urgently calling on the federal government to provide assistance and change immigration policies to alleviate the pressure on the city. Bernie Sanders recently was asked about open borders. He was asked why he supported it, and he said, that's not true. He said, think about how many poor people there are in the world who will come here. Bernie Sanders was accused by the World Socialist website. It's not like the most prominent thing in the world, but yes, they said Bernie Sanders is a right-wing nationalist because he's pro-capitalist and he's pro-borders and he opposes trade agreements and he wants to benefit Americans at the expense of Mexicans. That's WSWS.org. That's an article about it. Bernie Sanders in 2015 was asked whether he would support open borders. And he said that's a Koch brothers proposal, that these big industrialists want to bring in cheap labor. Okay. Bernie Sanders has repeatedly called out the problem of having these massive surges of illegal immigrants. He straight up said only a couple weeks ago, you think about all of the poor people who want to come here, you can't do that. If even Bernie Sanders is going to point out this is a problem. If we've got 1,800 illegal immigrants in one day, more migrants are coming. We got a state of emergency in Yuma. At what point is this actually an emergency? Because the left refuses to give it to Trump. Look, I don't know if a wall is effective, cost effective. I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I certainly know that the left's argument is about racism and immorality, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I see the mayor of a town declaring a state of emergency. I see record apprehensions. And now we've got this. When you do nothing, you get militias stepping up and doing it because nothing's getting done. And this can make things potentially worse. You know, heaven forbid one of these migrants gets hurt. But what do you expect? If the government isn't going to step up and actually deal with this. Now, look, I don't know what the solution is, but what I can say is it's baffling to me how they say over and over again it's a manufactured crisis. Okay, well, the Wall Street Journal called it a straight-up crisis, and they've even declared a state of emergency. Did the mayor of Yuma manufacture the state of emergency? I bet I bet you they will claim he's just doing that to benefit Trump. Oh, it's fake. It's a fake state. Listen, at a certain point, okay, can you just shut up? Look, I'm not going to accuse the mayor of conspiring with the president to fabricate this. I'm not going to accuse Border Patrol of just finding more people to get record numbers. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let's see we'll read the bullets on this one. Hundreds of Central American migrants walk through Mexico in latest caravan making its way to the U.S. as border agents capture 1,800 illegal immigrants in just one day. Hundreds more Central American migrants were making their way through Mexico on Thursday. The latest migrant caravan has made its way to the Mexican town of Villa Comatitlan. I hope I got that right. They are en route to the U.S., but are still about 1,000 miles from reaching the border. It comes as Border Patrol agents intercepted roughly 1,800 illegal immigrants on Tuesday. Half of those detained were found near El Paso, Texas, according to officials. Border Patrol said more than 980 were apprehended before 5 a.m. after crossing in 3 large groups made up of mostly Central American families. But let's see what's going on with these militias. Armed right-wing militia members detained a large group of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border and coordinated with U.S. Border Patrol agents to have them arrested, according to the ACLU, in a series of actions the civil liberties organization called a kidnapping and a flagrant violation of the law. Several videos taken at the border in New Mexico this week appeared to show men belonging to a group that calls itself United Constitutional Patriots approaching migrant families and children, ordering them to sit down, calling federal agents on them, and at one point potentially misrepresenting themselves by saying Border Patrol as they approached. Well, you can't call yourself Border Patrol. If that's the case, haven't seen the videos, then I believe that may actually be a crime. But it depends, because Border Patrol isn't the official term for anything. So, more importantly, these people are breaking U.S. law, plain and simple. You know, there are people on the left who are going to say they want to act like it's not a crime. It is. It's literally a crime. We have ports of entry on purpose. And if we want to stem the flow of drugs and trafficking and, all these really bad things, then yes, we have to enforce our borders, especially when you have massive migrant, populations coming through. If a group of people, let's change the crime. Let's go back to let's say you're in a liquor store and you steal something. Nothing crazy. You steal some candy bars and stuff, and then someone stops you and says, sit down. Security, sit down. And you do. Is that a kidnapping? It's not. It's literally not a kidnapping. You're being detained, and then they call the police, and the police come and arrest you. That's quite literally how, there's videos of this all over Reddit. There's a video on Reddit of, 2 people in a gas, it was like a gas at a convenience store, and they try stealing something, and then, they get detained and held down. There's even a video that was on Reddit of a dude robbing a pizza shop, and the other guy beats the living crap out of him, and then, dude, listen. That's not assault, right? This is not kidnapping. At least I don't think it's kidnapping. I think that's a crazy way to frame it. Do I like the idea of armed militias going out? Absolutely not. I think this is a huge problem because we need accountability. We need our sanctioned, regulated law enforcement to be handling this problem. Unfortunately, seems like you can't get anything done. Well, Trump's building the wall. Maybe the wall's a solution. I don't know, because it seems like the Democrats can't actually come out and give any good talking points other than technology solution. It's okay, well, you're not telling me why the wall won't make sense, right? You're not telling me why, Trump wanted this big, massive concrete wall. That, I think, is ridiculous. But now he walks it back to 200 miles of select fencing, and I'm like, okay, that's a heavy compromise. And what do the Democrats say? No, it's immoral. What? Look what's going on, man. It's mind-blowing to me. This is where we are right now. Record migrants, states an actual state of emergency, and now we're seeing militias step up to do what the U.S. government isn't funding. And the ACL gets mad and calls them vigilantes working to kidnap and detain people seeking asylum. What do you think literally happens when people break the law? It's just a group of guys apparently stopping a group and then passing off to law enforcement. I don't understand. Does the ACLU want them wandering through the desert? Look at what happens when these people wander through the desert. Some of them get sick and they get hurt. Getting them access to the federal authorities is the best thing. They want to apply for asylum, right? It's not like they're being beaten or shot. This is ridiculous. I think that it seems like, as far as I can tell, the left isn't engaging honestly. It's almost like they don't pay attention. Because I got to say, listen, man, the moment you have an actual state of emergency in Yuma, you're going to have to either accuse the mayor of Yuma of lying. Was it the mayor who declared it? Let's see. Mayor Douglas Nichols. Yeah. You're going to have to accuse him. Oh, he's a Republican. That proves it. It was a coordination with the president to create this. No, I think that's a crazy conspiracy theory. And you know that's what they're going to say. They're going to say, he's just doing this because he's trying to help Trump get the wall. There's no real emergency. Okay, we're not playing this game. We're not. If you declared a state of emergency, then I'm going to take your word for it. Look at this. Since the start of the federal budget year in October, more than 189,000 migrants traveling as families have crossed the border illegally, more than in any prior full year. Most are fleeing violence, corruption, hunger, and poverty in Central American nations of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, and request asylum upon their arrival in the U.S. Families that illegally cross the border and ask for asylum are allowed to stay in the country until their request can be adjudicated, a process that can take years because of court backups. 189,000 migrants traveling as families. Listen, at some point, you got to say, this is more than we've ever had in any prior year. Isn't this crazy? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because it seems plain as day to anybody reading the Wall Street Journal. I don't even know, man. I'll say this: I don't know if Trump's solutions are the right solutions, but goddamn, if anyone's actually trying to solve this problem, if you get someone who comes up to me and says, "Look, this is a real problem. We got an emergency. I want to build a wall," and the other side says, "It's a fake emergency. The wall's pointless," I'm like, you're not addressing the problem, right? What I keep hearing from Democrats is instead of addressing what the problem is, they just say Trump is wrong. So okay, what should we do? I'm waiting. I don't know. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. I'm not going to prattle on this too much longer. Stick around. I got more videos coming up later in the day. Next video at 1 p.m. I will see you then.